Okay, only 1 week left here until President Trump's deadline for Russian sanctions go into effect. The president is issuing some pretty sharp criticism of Russia's latest attacks on Ukraine. He spoke to reporters in the Oval Office yesterday. Listen.
I think it's disgusting what they're doing. I think it's disgusting. This is Biden's war. It's not my war. But I said if I get in, I'll try and get the thing stopped. But I think what Russia's doing is very sad.
Steve Yates, AFPI Senior Fellow and Chair of the China Policy Initiative, joins us here now. Steve, good morning to you. I want to play one more soundbite from President Trump, if I can, because he's talking about these sanctions that we've all been talking about for a while. Will they go into effect? He's getting closer to it, but even he is acknowledging that they might not work. Listen.
Yeah, we're going to put sanctions. I don't know that sanctions bother him. You know, they know about sanctions. I know better than anybody about sanctions and tariffs and everything else. I don't know if that has any effect, but we're going to do it. Europe is extremely upset. But this is a war that should have never happened. This is a war that wouldn't have happened if I were president.
So where does that leave our leverage?
Well, obviously, the president's justified in being frustrated. I mean, he's kept good faith with all parties in this. He was very clear as a bell what his intentions were: stop the killing, pursue an alternative path to peace and prosperity. He's talked to Russia, Ukraine, allies, and at this point, Putin is not reciprocating. There really aren't that many options under the current circumstances other than trying to affect access to financial and energy markets. That's what he's hinting towards. Europe and others need to go along. It sounds like they may. But this is basically the clear frustration of a president who's trying to pursue peace, but with big powers that aren't sharing that vision.
Yeah, and Russia is responding with threats of their own. I mean, basically saying to Trump, if you keep playing these games, these word games with the 50 days, the 10 days, that, you know, they're talking about a war, and not with Ukraine, but with our country. I do think this was an interesting op-ed from the Wall Street Journal here, talking about what Trump might be trying to accomplish here, sort of mimicking what Richard Nixon did. Mr. Trump has long admired the way Richard Nixon exploited Russia-China tensions to end China's isolation during the Cold War. And one reason he has said he wants to settle the Ukraine conflict is that he thinks it drove Russia and China closer together. Breaking up this axis could possibly drive Russia to the bargaining table with Ukraine. I think a lot of people would agree, but how might the president expedite that situation that he's hoping for? Do you think some of these trade deals, or at least a trade deal with China, might pressure this sort of breaking apart of their relationship?
Yeah, well, I see it a little bit differently in that, you know, in my lifetime, China's changed a great deal. The Cold War is a very, very different environment. And Xi Jinping is a different kind of leader of China's Communist Party. And all of the frustrations the president is experiencing with Putin, speaking friendly in terms from time to time, but not taking action that leads to peace, is likely to experience with Xi Jinping, who has been on a straight line of increasing tensions with all of his neighbors. So this really comes down to actions. My view is the big rebalancing on trade the president's been doing, the right path to set that course. Lessening dependencies improves our leverage, lessens theirs. Those are the things that will set that scene. But getting Xi Jinping not to cooperate with Putin, if we haven't even really imposed energy sanctions for China buying a lot of Russian energy, probably not likely to leave this Nixon move open to us.
And just with 30 seconds left here, of course, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is headed to Russia. Kind of a surprise headline from President Trump the other day. What does he have to say? What does he have to do when he gets there?
Well, I think he has to just speak very, very clearly on behalf of the president. It shouldn't come as a shock because President Trump is the most transparent man ever in American politics, same in public and private. But clear that president's frustrated, he's serious, but he's also serious about this peace and prosperity path if they just start stopping the killing and pursue the peace deal.
Okay. All right, we got to go. Steve Yates, thanks for joining us on your Friday. Have a great weekend.
A pleasure. Thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.